Yo, what's good? Glad to have you guys back. Welcome to the Striker's Perspective, where we just like to chat about fights and different types of things that we experience in our lives, from competition to watching fights to daily MMA news. So one thing that I think we have not touched on is sort of what it's like to be a fighter and some of the nuances and things that people don't understand what it's like to be a fighter. And I can speak firsthand because I'm an amateur fighter. Um, I would say what people don't realize what they're getting into when they're fighting is definitely the professionalism with different promotions. It's the same things that you see that happen in the UFC. Similar things happen actually on the amateur market. You always got to wonder, you should have some questions. Am I fighting? What weight am I fighting? And is the guy who they said I'm fighting going to be the same person? And that switches all the time. So just like you see in the pros where you see a venue change or opponent change, it's actually a lot like that on the amateur market. You never know who you're going to be fighting until probably the week of. And I think it just sort of speaks to the other amateurs who have lots of fights about how determined they are to really stick into it, because you can imagine how it is being in a full fight camp and then your opponent switches at the last second, or the venue switches, or a fight gets pulled. And I would just say from my perspective, it's like, yo, you're grinding, you're doing other things, you got to go to work, because until you start making actual money as a fighter, you're probably going to have another job unless you got other people helping you out. But just you're grinding, you're putting miles on your car, you're going to work multiple times, you're trying to meal prep healthy food, you're cutting out 6 to 8 weeks to train, and then boom, your opponent falls out. So what you think about that?
Yeah, it's funny because I remember when I used to watch you in camp or I'd watch the other guys at the gym in camp. It's like it's something I never experienced, but I used to sympathize with you guys because it's like, damn, how does it feel to prepare for an opponent, but also in the back of your mind know that he didn't sign a contract, so he could on a whim decide to not fight or anything could happen. So it was like, dang, it's like you prepared for an opponent, but in the back of your mind, even though you're training hard, going crazy, there's still a part of your mind where the person could back out or the fight could get canceled. And a lot of times it did happen.
Yeah, we definitely have guys at our gym who spent 6 to 8 months in camp, and they maybe only got one fight out of that whole ordeal. So that's something that's actually, if I was able to change anything, maybe change that. I would love to be a matchmaker, but on the outside looking in, it looks so easy. But I don't know what it's like being the matchmaker for an amateur organization. I can only speculate, but I don't know. That's something that maybe I want to get into. Or sometimes I think about refing at the amateur level. I think it'd be something that'd be fun, because who gets a better view of what's going on than a ref?
That's a fact. Yeah.
Maybe even a judge. I think just starting at the amateur level would be fun, because even at the amateur level, the judging is more shady than it is at the pro level. You may have people, yeah, just I'd say shady, but also inconsistent, because sometimes judges at amateur levels, they don't really know what they're watching all of the time. You may have a guy who just is used to doing boxing judging, and then he comes over and does MMA judging or kickboxing judging, and he doesn't know the small nuances. So I think having people who actually are dedicated to the sport watching it will benefit in the long run to this, even at the higher levels, just having people who are involved. Because sometimes you'll see an MMA event, UFC or Bellator or Ryzen or something like that, and the judges aren't really engaged to the fights. So it's like, this dude's not even engaged to the fights. He's getting paid to be engaged, watching paid fighters, and he's not even paying attention the whole time. Regardless of if the fight's boring or not, that's your job.
Yeah.
So imagine how it is on the amateur level.
Yeah. And you've also seen unprofessionalism. So say you have a fighter and you get to the venue. Have you seen unprofessionalism there?
As far as like
anything
at the venue?
Yeah.
So one thing that that sort of irks me is oftentimes when you go to a venue, even at pro levels, if you're not, I don't know what it's like being a UFC fighter, so I can't really say, but even for like pro MMA fighters on the lower levels, you could be fighting in a nice venue, but they may not have anywhere for you to warm up. So you may be warming up carpet.
Oh,
I fought in
dude.
places where I've warmed up and it's sort of been like, all right, you have the main attraction, which is the ring, but you're warming up in like a back room or something that used to be like a bar or something, or just a back room, which is just open. And they may or may not have mats. So say you're doing MMA and you're grappling heavy, you go to a venue and ain't got no mats for you to work out on. How you gonna do grappling on the ground? Or if you're a kickboxer and you're warming up and the floor is tile, how you gonna really let go on a kick?
And I remember one time we were discussing how you were warming up before a fight, and right across the room, maybe 5 yards away, was your opponent, and you had to like stay focused on warming up while also trying to, you know what I mean, acknowledge your opponent on the.
Yeah, Adam. Yeah, so that's another weird thing. It's like, wow, like I'm just looking right at my opponent. So like I'm trying not to give him too many secrets. I'm sure he's looking at me trying not to give me too many secrets.
Yeah.
You know, I'm seeing his pre-fight routine. He's seeing my pre-fight routine. And I'm like, privacy? Can we at least get a curtain? You know, sometimes they bless you, have the blue fighters on one side of the curtain, the red fighters on the other side of the curtain, and y'all don't see each other. But this time it was just, we was wide open. I'm like,
now, what about biasness? Have you ever encountered biasness?
With judging?
Yeah.
I'm sure there definitely is some biases. If you find a hometown kid, just know that you're gonna have to put a whooping on them to get the hand raised. I've seen some pretty biased scores. Or, you know, if you're fighting definitely the hometown kid. I think that goes for all levels. If you're fighting somebody from that hometown, it's probably going to be hard for you to walk away with a split decision. You're going to have to really put the damage on.
Because I forgot what exact part of New York we would go to, but when we would go there, it would always be an issue with biasness. Like if there was it was just like a certain gym we would fight, and if you fought them, you had to go crazy on them. Otherwise, the judge would the decision would have been fair. Yeah.
And I feel like it really is at all levels, but you know what? I respect it though, because it make you go harder. You know, it make you not want to leave it in the hands of the judge because you know what's up. So you not, you know, never want to play it safe, but now you really going the extra mile because you know you can't lay back and, you know, leave it up in the air. So that's just some small things. What's up?
So one more thing. So can you go into a little deeper into the nuances of when you're training so hard for a fight, you're doing this, you're doing that, but you still gotta juggle regular life. Like you still gotta go to work, you still got, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's definitely difficult because you're doing things at work. You may be having your homeboys switch shifts with you at work. So you can go to practice. You're like, hey man, I'll take your Sunday shift. If you could take my Tuesday shift, because I need to be at the gym on Tuesday because that's a longer day. And I don't mind working Sundays. And then you got a girl, she off on Sundays. Or, you know, you got a boyfriend, he off on Sundays, whatever. And then it's like, you go on to work on Sundays to accommodate your training schedule. And then you're missing family time. So you're missing all your family time. The bills are still stacking up. You putting miles on your hoopty because I don't know about y'all, but I'm not driving the newest car. So you putting miles on your hoopty, driving back and forth from the gym. You're not getting paid for it at the amateur level. You going crazy with the healthy food, trying to eat good because you're trying to prepare for your best for the fight. So you racking up on the grocery bills. Then you got your medical expenses. You got to get your blood work in and you got to get physicals. And the insurance don't always cover all of that. So right there, you already losing a lot of money. Then some people may have different types of anxiety. You know, you're getting into a fight. So the anxiety is real. Some people are scared of what the opponent can do. Some people are more scared of disappointing their family. Like, oh, I'm getting into a fight. I don't want to disappoint my family. I remember I was nervous about. I never want to get knocked out or injured or tapped or anything, but I had to get over a mental hurdle that I had. I didn't want to get knocked out or hurt against a specific opponent just because I knew that opponent was really relied on his strength. But that's something that you got to mentally get through. It's like I got to get over what my opponent's best skill is, and you got to find out how you mentally prepare for a fight. And everyone is different, and every opponent is different. So every mental preparation is going to take something different. One guy may rely on strength, one guy may rely on skills like head kicks, and you got to brace yourself because you know what's coming. That's his go-to. His go-to is strength. His go-to is leg kicks. His go-to is head kicks. His go-to is push kicks. So you sitting there thinking about that. You at work, trying to focus on work, and the back of your head is creeping in. I got this dude training. He trying to throw spinning hook kicks at my head. And you like, dang, I'm at work. I need to be practicing for this guy who about to be throwing spinning wheel kicks at my head.
Yeah.
So, or you just sitting there, you in the car, you thinking like, man, I'm driving to the store. I wonder if this dude right now is working on that body punch because I see he like to go to the body. You know, did I do enough body conditioning? Do I got enough counters? So it's always something to worry about, and it's never enough time when you're in camp to balance all your outside of life things, outside of camp things.
What about after the fight? Like, what happens? What's that feeling when you may or may not get that hand raised? Like, what's some of those feelings? You sometimes have like a little disappointment, like, dang, I wish I could have did that.
Or... Yeah. So, you know, I've lost. I want to say I've lost 3 fights, so I know the feeling being disappointed. I've lost one where it was a split decision where I felt like I won. I really wasn't upset because I was like, you know, people in the crowd came up to me and told me that I won. My coaches were backing me, saying that I won. I thought as though I won, so I was real nonchalant. I was like, I won. And then I've lost a championship fight where I didn't exactly do as well as I thought I was going to do. Got dropped. I kept fighting. I fought hard, but it was really disappointing. You're like, man, all these people came out to see me, and I didn't really put on how I wanted to put on. And Derek Lewis talks about it. His last fight with Cyril Gane. He's like, just that disappointed. You know, you feel like you let people down. So I don't really feel like sometimes people feel like that because they didn't leave it all in the cage. Because sometimes even when I'm fighting, you may get hesitant or you may hold back. But I feel like if I leave it all in the cage, then there ain't nothing to be upset about or feel some type of way about. But the problem lies like if I felt as though I could have done more. But if I felt like I did everything I could, like if I was in a Kelvin Gastelum versus Israel Adesanya fight and I'm Kelvin Gastelum and I did everything I could do and I lose, then I guess that's just it.
Yeah.
You know, like if I did everything I could do, I did everything I could do. But it's one of the sweetest feelings though when you get your hand raised.
Word.
Especially after like a crazy fight where you got to overcome some type of adversity or it's just a high-paced fight and you edge them out at the end. You know, the finishes are cool. If you get a finish, that's always cool. But definitely the competitive fights where you feel like you hit a new level, it really does make it work to you. Like, okay, I could do 2 more of these. I could do 3 more of these. You know, I could keep fighting. I could keep doing this. It makes it all worth it when you get your hand raised.
Yeah. Then you got that other victory when you first get back to the gym after a victory.
Yeah, everyone's
talk about it.
Yeah, everyone excited to see you fight, see how you did. You know, especially if you get a finish, people want to see a finish. You're gonna be popping for the next 3 months, but you gotta try not to let it go to your head too, because you can carry that into the next fight, and it could definitely affect your performance. So you always gotta be humble after you win. And that's one thing that I have been working on, and I want to continue to work on. After the fight, maybe take a day to celebrate, and then get straight back to business, because you don't want to let it go to your head and think that it's always gonna be this way. and the rest of the competition can't touch you.
Yeah.
So, and then another thing I want to get into is like pre-fight. I feel like pre-fight is the weirdest time.
What you mean?
Like, so like what I mean by that is when you're in the street and you're about to fight, you just about to fight. Like there ain't no real build up. But if you're about to fight in the arena, you know, in your first event, it's here now. It's 2 hours, it's 3 hours away, and you trying to stay occupied for 3 hours. All right, you hitting pads a little bit, then you chilling. Hitting pads a little bit, then you chilling. Then you stretching. Then you got the fighters meeting. Okay, we got the fighters meeting. Here's the rules. Yada yada yada. Getting your hands wrapped. Coach talking to you. Guys on the side pacing back and forth, throwing. You know, everyone got different preparations. So maybe one guy is meditating. Maybe one guy is pacing back and forth. Maybe somebody got their speaker playing their music for some reason. So you seeing everybody else's preparation. You're looking at some people preparation like, man, okay, he looked like he about to do his thing tonight. This dude look legit. Then you look at other people preparation like, man, this dude don't look too crisp. And then you're like, do I look like this dude? Are people saying that about me? Or do I look like the guy who's Chris, who's everyone like, man, you're going to go out there and kill it tonight? So then it's like, all right, you on deck. You fight number 5. You fight number 7. We on fight number, say you on fight number 7. We on fight number 4. Okay, I got 3 fights left. All right, this dude just got finished in a minute. All right, so I guess I'm going up quicker than what I thought.
Oh, man.
Okay, so we going up quicker than what we
nerve-wracking.
thought. Yeah, all right, so we got 2 fights left. All right, this one took a little while. So, all right, we got 1 fight left. All right, now it's go time. We sitting there at the curtain. You getting called up first. All right, you walking out. So one of the best walkouts I ever had, I think it was last fight. The kid asked me, are you going to win? I just shook my head. I was like, But I'm like, that's a wild thing to ask somebody.
Yeah, who asked you that?
It was just a kid in the crowd. It's like, hey, you going to win? You going to win? I'm like, I'm like, because you know, it's a fight. You know, you're trying to focus, but you're not trying to be too conceited or anything. But so now you're walking out to the crowd, you see your family, you got the coaches behind you. You know, you give your coaches a hug. Do what you gotta do. You know, some people pray before they get into the ring, do the Dominic Cruz or whatever, look back at the crowd. And if you go on first, all right, now your opponent's coming out. Your coaches are still talking to you. You're trying to stay loose. Remember your numbers, remember your combinations, remember the plan. Or if you come in second, you walk into your opponent pacing back and forth. So it's like, all right, my opponent pacing back and forth.
Ready.
And we amateurs. Ain't no come in the middle, shake hands. It's all right, fighter 1, you ready? Fighter 2, you ready? All right, let's go. This ain't no UFC man. This ain't no UFC main event.
Has there ever been a time where like it seemed like things was happening so fast? It's like, I just stepped in here, now I'm fighting. It's like, oh.
I want to say my first fight. I remember looking at my first fight. I was like, man, these gloves are small. I guess I'm gonna have to be offensive. And then next thing you know, I'm fighting. I'm like, yo, this is so tiring.
Word.
My first fight, yeah, because I'm like, I was 17 years old and I was fighting Muay Thai. I think the guy was a little bit older than me. And I'm like, yo, these gloves are small. These ain't no sparring gloves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, let's do it. You're saying, yeah, a time where things feel too fast. Definitely that. Or sometimes things may feel like they're taking forever. So you're like, man, I wish this fight would just hurry up and happen. Especially, you gotta think. Usually, if you're in a car with kickboxing and MMA, MMA guys go last. So if you're an MMA guy or you're the kickboxing main event, you may be like number 8 on the card. So you may be fighting at 7:30, 8 o'clock if the event starts at 5. All right, so you're fighting at 8 o'clock. That's not bad. If you're the MMA main event, you may be fighting at 11, 12.
Word.
You gotta pack a couple snacks.
You ever got hungry at an event before?
Oh, definitely. I bring snacks. I bring fruit. you're hitting pads the whole time back there, so of course you're gonna get a little hungry.
Mm.
I've not done MMA, so I can only imagine how hungry I would get, especially if I was an MMA main event, like some of our teammates have been, where we go and we're there to maybe 1 a.m. because it's a stacked amateur card with 23 fights in an intermission. So you leave the gym at 12, you get to the fight venue at like 2 or 3, and you don't leave until 2 or 3. Well, I'm capping. You don't leave till like 1 or 2 a.m. because you're the MMA main event and it's a stacked card. And that's definitely like, man, that has to be make you anxious or something.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine. I mean, because think about it at the professional level. How long do you stay up when you watching a UFC main event or a PFL main event? These guys are fighting at like 11 o'clock our time.
Yeah, hella late.
Keep it a buck. I'd rather fight early in the day. Wake me up at 8 o'clock. Make me up at 5 a.m. Let me just roll out of bed.
Yeah. That's not a bad time either.
Yeah, I feel like I'd be more natural. I'd be more authentic. I'd just be loose. Roll me up out of bed at 5 a.m. Roll him up out of bed at 5 a.m. Let's get it cracking at a local gym. Well, I got to drive 3 hours.
Yeah, it's that weight feeling of those butterflies. You still get butterflies?
I definitely get butterflies more or less because it's sometimes you're more skilled than an opponent. And you're like, man, I'm more skilled than this guy. I believe I have the better skills. Or maybe you're not more skilled, either or. But sometimes you're like, okay, I believe I'm more skilled. But this guy may have physical attributes. So you're like, okay, I believe I have the better technique. But is his physical attributes gonna overshadow my technique? And you're like, I can't think about that. I gotta think about what I'm doing. Or this guy has better technique than me. I guess I gotta really stick to the game plan because this guy's technique is better than mine. So we gotta be in our P's and Q's and really use our strategy. And you're sort of thinking like, okay. Or some guys don't like to get hit before fights. I like to get hit. I want to get hit the day of the fight. I want to go in there feeling like I know I could take the hits. I don't like not getting hit for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I need to get hit. I need to know that I could get hit and be okay.
Yeah.
But that's just sort of what it's like just being the amateur fighter. It ain't all glorious. It's more it's a little bit of glory at the end, but it's a lot of hard work and it's going to be a lot of times where you put in that hard work and you're not exactly going to get rewarded because the guy on the other side or the female on the other side could pull out at any time, or with the new COVID regulations, venues and stuff can change and your fight can fall through. So
yeah, it looks cool.
There, yeah,
it looks cool, but tell them how many times we done seen so many people come to the gym saying they're gonna be the next this or the next that, and they don't last no cap like 2 weeks.
All the time, people will come to MMA gyms expecting for them just to hop in and be the next big thing, but there's guys at the amateur level that are really good. There's guys at the amateur level that are obviously better than me, who I see who are very good, and those guys are having trouble really taking that next step. So for people who come in and just say, I'm gonna hop in and be the next big star, yes, always self-belief, but it's sort of disrespectful to the guys out there grinding. Yeah. And then another issue that I forgot to touch on is that being a good fighter is a gift and a curse at the amateur level and the professional level. If you're a good fighter with a solid record, people are going to avoid you like the plague. Just like you see at the higher levels, if you're a fighter who's, 9-2 or 9-3 and you ain't got no belt, people not about to fight you. People are going to avoid you like the plague. Yeah. You see it at the highest levels. You got guys who are 22-4 and they'd rather fight somebody who's 13-7 than someone who's 19-1.
Yeah.
So at the amateur level, guys are trying to build their fighters. They're trying to tiptoe their way around the competition. I mean, I've seen guys who are 14-5, 15-5, taking on guys with losing records. It's like you're trying to scout people out here, fight people on your, people got to fight people on their own record, fight people on their own wave.
Yeah.
You got guys out here trying to go out there and get easy wins, and which isn't always good. It's like, yo, when you go in there and you intentionally fight somebody who you know that you're better than by a lot, you could really hurt that dude.
Mm.
And you're really just doing that for an ego boost. The goal should be to go in there and beat somebody who you don't know you could beat. Right. So that way, when you come out with your hand raised, you felt like you accomplished something. Because I fought some good guys with better records than mine. And then when I come out with the win, I'm like, yeah, I just put that L on their record.
Yeah. Hold that.
I just put another L on their record. Like, yes, like that was a tough opponent. He pushed me to the max, and I was able to overcome and put an L on their record. I felt like I achieved something.
Yeah.
But that's a basic wrap up of most of the things you're gonna experience at the amateur level and at the bottom pro level. Really
as an amateur fighter, huh?
Yeah, really a bunch of unanswered questions about what weight you're gonna be fighting at. The promoter's always gonna try to get you to go up above your weight or below your weight. Your opponent's gonna change probably 2 times, 3 times throughout your camp. Venues may change. You're gonna be broke during camp because you're trying to eat the healthiest food. So if you broke now, you get super broke during camp. Super broke, bro. And then just the lead up and what happens after. It ain't all glory, but I find it fulfilling. It's a fulfilling hobby.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, you really shine the light on the things people don't really think about. I mean, they kind of just see the hand raised and the performing in front of their family, but they don't see the waiting and they don't see the dark side of it.
Yeah, and they really don't know how many fights it may take to get to that pro level. You may have a guy at the amateur level, fighting for 8-10 fights or 8 to 10 fights. He probably has about 12 to 13 camps because fights have fallen through, been through a lot of camps, this and that. So it's definitely something when you see somebody get their hand raised, just know that it's putting in hours in the gym. They're putting in 20 hours a week, like it's a part-time job, 30 hours a week. So people on the couch don't exactly understand what they may be watching. Yeah. When they see someone get their hand raised, they think, oh, this guy just goes to the gym for an hour a day. You got guys at the gym for 4 hours a day, 6 hours a day. You get to the gym at 4, you don't leave till 9. That's 5 hours. And then you came earlier in the day for 2 hours.
Yeah. That's a lifestyle.
Exactly. People don't understand that.